Hi there and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm reviewing Eddie Raymond's Rough and Smooth Index. The Rough and Smooth Index is really fast, and here's an example of something you can do with it. In this card case, I have a prediction inside, and it's just one card. We're going to leave it on the table. I'd have my spectator name any card. Let's say they say the 5 of clubs, I guess. They could have named any card, but the cool thing is that inside this box right here is one card, as I mentioned. I'm not going to say what it is, but you can hear it, and I'll actually take it. There's one card. I'll take it out of the box, and it is the 5 of clubs. And you know what's so cool? Boom, it's reset. It's already done. It's reset just like that. So fast. This is a very cool index, and we're going to talk about it now. First of all, I'd like to let all Magic distributors and creators know if you'd like me to review your product, contact me at bffanmail@gmail.com. Also, I do free Magic monthly giveaways, and you just have to subscribe to be eligible. Now, let's talk about this. Eddie is an amazing person, really. He brought this index out on the Magic Cafe and released a tutorial on how to build it for free to everyone. That was very generous of him. Now, if you don't have time to build this index, as it's pretty time consuming, Eddie now sells this index for only $50. He hand makes each and every one of them. He brings them out independently and not through one of those big Magic distributors like Vanishing Ink or Penguin Magic or Murphy's. This index is very interesting. I'm pretty sure this is the first index that uses Rough and Smooth, although I'm not sure. But what do you get when you purchase the index? You get this. You'll receive first this plastic packaging, nothing too fancy, but inside you'll get this plastic container, which is nice, and inside you can store your index for whenever you're not using it. Again, the index is very unique. But you'll want to take care of this index because the cards are rough and smooth. So make sure you don't let the rough and smooth rub off against your pants or let them warp. So whenever you're not using them, you'll want to carry them in a case. Finally, you'll get a folded up piece of paper with some details, some positives with this index, as well as the link to the tutorial. And that's all. What is the quality of the gimmick? The index is a very, very interesting index. Let's first talk about the base of the index. The index itself is made out of plastic, and the plastic is flexible. Eddie cut the plastic himself, and they're essentially like dividers. The dividers should last you a good amount of time, as they're not really bending. Well, they're bending, but they're not creasing or damaging or anything like that. The bottom is sealed off with some electrical tape. The cards themselves are also gimmicked. They're made from blue bicycle playing cards, and every other card in this packet is roughed. The cards go together in pairs, and they're pretty well made. And the index is very small and compact. It's barely larger than a deck of cards when it's full. Here's a card box. I'll compare the thickness. It is larger than the deck of cards, but not by much. You can see maybe the thickness difference. Is that picking up? If so, it's just this much bigger, not much. And as for the thickness, it's actually not even as wide as a deck of cards. It's thicker than a deck, but not as wide as the deck. And it's about the same height as a deck of cards, except the tabs make it a little bit taller. The cards are also pretty well made, but if you keep this in your pocket a lot, the cards will eventually wear out and warp. I've had this experience with various indexes. The corners of the cards may warp or bend and stuff like that. Usually, that does not prevent you from being able to use the index, but the cards will eventually wear out, and you'll have to rough and smooth your own cards when that happens. The index is never going to be seen by your audience. It doesn't look like it should wear out for a long time. And if it does wear out, you can just pick up another one from Eddie. One thing with this index is, well, my favorite trick to do with an index is a brainwave with a normal deck of cards. I use red bicycle cards, so the blue cards you get with this work perfectly as you get that contrast. However, sometimes since half the cards are rough, when you do the brainwave effect, it may take a little longer to find their card, as it may stick to a normal card in the red deck. And that's a minor inconvenience, but you'll still be able to identify which card is theirs by the thick card. If you see a thick card that looks like it's two, you just spread it. But sometimes my fingers are very, very dry, so it's a bit hard. That's why I don't love using regular brainwave decks. Sometimes my fingers are so dry, I can't even get them to split apart, and it looks like I'm really struggling with the deck. But again, it's a minor inconvenience. How's the tutorial? The tutorial is only 10 minutes long. Eddie's in his home talking about the index, how it was made, and how to retrieve cards. You don't learn any specific routines, but the audio is good and the video is also good. There's no background music, but I don't think Eddie's mic'd. The tutorial was a bit short, but it's enough for you to learn how to use the index. I do wish Eddie could have taught how to reload the index in the case that the cards come out, because when I started using the index, I put this in my bag and a bunch of the cards just fell out. I don't know how. I think I was in a moving vehicle and it was shaking a lot and everything was going up and down, and a bunch of these cards actually fell out. So I wasn't exactly sure how to reset everything, but I was able to do it in the end just by thinking about how the mechanics of this index worked, and I was able to put everything back in its proper position. What are the angles like? This is a utility device. The angles for your performance completely depend on what tricks you want to do with it. If you want to cop a card out of the index, the angles obviously won't be perfect. You won't want people behind you. You'll only want people in front of you. If you are doing an effect where you take a whole deck of cards and put it in the same pocket as the index, have them name a card and retrieve it, acting like you have muscle memory and know where every single card in the deck is, there's no angle issues. Are there live performances in the tutorial? No. Unfortunately, there are no live performances in Eddie's tutorial, but that's fine. But because you can come up with your own routines. There's not one specific routine because this is a utility device. All indexes are. But this is a bit different because it's so fast. It takes 2 to 5 seconds to retrieve any card. And you'll never have to riffle more than 2 times. If you want to learn how to make this for free, go check out the link on the Magic Cafe. As I said, Eddie generously gave this to everyone as a present, and you can learn how to make it too. Is this examinable? Your spectator will never ever see the index, but no, they could definitely not examine it. As for the card, if you're performing on a layperson, the card you retrieve from the index can be examined no matter what. However, if you're performing on a magician, there's a 50-50 chance that the card is examinable. As I said, half the cards are roughed. If the magician examines a roughed card, they will definitely feel it. Now let's talk about the difficulty and practicality of the effect. The index is not very difficult to use, and with an hour of good practice, you should be able to retrieve the cards in a few seconds. It's very easy to do. All you have to do, it is a bit naggy at first when you're first learning this, but eventually you will get it down within an hour of good practice. The difficulty varies, again, based on what trick you're planning on doing. If you load a card onto the deck, you'll need to know how to cop cards or palm cards, which is slightly more difficult. Now, is there any DIY? There is no DIY, but eventually you'll have to make more roughed cards, as the ones you get will inevitably warp or get damaged or something like that. They'll wear out. But if you get Plasti Dip, that should last you a long time. That's the roughing spray Eddie uses, and it keeps the cards in good condition for a good long time. Now, what is the pocket space like? This takes up about the same amount of space as a deck of cards vertically, and is slightly thicker than a deck of cards, as I said. Now, we're going to talk about the reset. The reset for this is so interesting because when you're retrieving a card, the reset is very quick as the marker card is left sticking out of the pack. So if you want, you can just reset by taking the card and putting it in your pocket, hitting the marker card and putting it in. But I find it easier to actually take the index out of your pocket and load the card back in there. But you won't want your spectator seeing you take the index out of your pocket and resetting. If you need to, you could reset it in your pocket. But again, if I'm just doing table-to-table magic or if I'm doing a show, I just take the index out and reset it. What is the price of this? In order to get this handmade by Eddie Raymond, this costs only $50 US. That's not much at all. This is a very good index and it's definitely worth the cost. Eddie's craftsmanship is good and this is definitely good for the price. So check it out, especially there's so many more expensive indexes, like Dex is $75. Cheetah is, I think, $50. The Advocate's a lot cheaper, but it's not gimmicked really. Check out the Advocate, Daniel Madison. It's also a really good index. But there are so many indexes. This is handmade. This is very well made. Eddie obviously takes very good care of these when he's making it. I haven't had any issues. It doesn't look like it's going to break anytime soon because there's nothing theoretically with this that should break. It's sealed off at the bottom. This isn't really even bending or creasing, so it's definitely good for the price. Pros and cons. Pros first. The pros are, this is very fast. I think with an index, speed isn't very important because you're misdirecting your audience. You could just be talking and you could be performing. You could take this or take the deck. You could be talking about this. And then as you're talking about this, you could load the card under the box or whatever routine you want. The timing isn't very important. Or should I say the speed of the index retrieval isn't as important as the timing of when you do the secret move, when you bring the card out. But it's very fast, not too much pocket space, it's very small. It's easy to learn the mechanism. This is handmade and well made by Eddie. The price is very good. Also, Eddie gave this away to all of us for free on the Magic Cafe. That was so generous of him. This only takes up one pocket. It's easy to get a 4 of a kind, and you can get a 4 of a kind almost as fast as you can, or you can get out one card the same speed, or almost as fast as you can get a pair. And you can get a pair at almost the same speed as a 4 of a kind. So it's really cool. It's very fast. And there's limitless possibilities with this. The cons. The tutorial could have gone, I feel, a bit more in-depth on the product. And also, these cards, I wish they could have been red bicycle cards. Again, you can make these yourself, but I use red bicycle cards, and I do a ton of tricks with indexes. So it might have been nice if they could be red cards. Also, the cards will eventually wear out, and when they do, you'll have to rough your own cards or buy a new set. But what percent does this effect get? This is so good. It gets an 89% or an 8.9 out of 10. Check it out, eddie-raymond.com. Thank you all for watching. And I hope I helped you decide whether this product was right for you. See you next time.